Hello, gentles and ladymen. I'm Ulan Gaming, and today we have a civilization review for Italy. Italy is one of the two civilizations that came out with Malta in the Knights of the Mediterranean DLC, and it is a very unique and very fun civilization that maybe at the time of this video needs just the slightest ever so boost in power. Now let's get into this video with no further ado. They have three unique mechanics. The first, and kind of the core economic advantage they have, is that whenever you research any kind of technology, to include any of your market techs, any unit upgrades for veterancy and guard and whatnot, or any arsenal upgrades, or anything to that degree, whenever you research a tech, you get a free settler that just comes with it. As such, they have a very market-heavy and market-based Age 1 as their standard starts. Their second unique mechanic is the Lombard, a bank-looking building that they can build that they invest resources into to transform into other resources over time, allowing them to fix their macro in the economy by getting rid of resources that they have overgathered. The last mechanic they have is the Basilica, the replacement for the church that allows you to train batches of units that arrive at your shipment point instead of training at the Basilica itself. This comes at the cost of taking up your shipment queue as well, so your units trained from the Basilica will be queued in your shipments, which may slow your shipments down, but you can also look at it as the advantage of... if your forward shipment point gets destroyed, you still get your units. They just go to your town center instead of your forward shipment point, or they go to your next shipment point back. So the enemy can't stop you training unless they destroy the Basilica itself, I don't think. As well as the fact that this really just kind of means that Italy is always sending shipments, and you will always have powerful shipments coming in at all times. And it makes your shipment points themselves much more dangerous, and something that the enemy has to keep a much bigger eye on than they usually do. Now, in terms of general playstyle, they don't have any. All playstyles work with Italy. You can do fast fortresses, fast industrials, turtles, booms, fast revolts, whatever you want. It all works. As for their age up, they have a generic European explorer and generic European politicians, just because, they're a generic European civ. Their explorer is just the basic explorer that everybody else has. The politicians are just a static bonus. You click it, you get it. It's not going to be anything new. However, they do have a little bit of spice when it comes to age ups, and that is the Advanced Politicians card, a card that they can send that allows you to get more out of every single age up that you go up, which can give you some pretty powerful shipments upon hitting the next stage to help you establish yourself in the next stage. As for unique units, they have quite a few of them. The first is the Papal Guard, a halberdier equivalent. The papal units all are trained from the Basilica, and the Basilica they are the batches of units that are shipped. The Papal Guard are trained in batches of 7 when they are shipped, and they are essentially slightly weaker halberdiers that have the deflection ability. Their next unique unit is the Pavasier, a crossbowman with a big shields. The Pavasier can change its resistance at will from ranged to melee or siege as depending on its stance. So it is always going to be useful no matter what you do. The Basiglary is on the bottom left there. The Basiglary is a skirmisher with pretty decent stats. It has a horn toot that makes all of your units move faster whenever it kills something temporarily, just for a couple of seconds. The big problem with the Basiglary is that despite it being a pretty solid skirmisher, that shadow tech's all the way up to age 4, it can't be made until age 4. Now, once you get to age 4, Basiglaries are great because it's a powerful stern that requires 0 investment to get into. But until you get to age 4, you can't use them, which really limits their usabilities. The Schiavone is just below the Pavasir. The Scivone is the only non-papal unit to come from the Basilica. Oh wait, no, I guess they can also get spies and priests from that as well. The Scivone is a skirmisher that counters other skirmishers. So if somebody rushes you with crossbows and pikemen, the Scivone shipment is what you're going to want. Scivone and Pavasirs. That'll take care of the enemy forces lickety-split. The Papal Lancer is their unique cavalry. This one is locked until age 3 at the Basilica. You can train them in batches of 3. The Papal Lancer is a super heavy Lancer type unit that has multipliers against all infantry, just like the Spanish Lancers. They also have the deflection ability on top of that and have very, very high stats. They're basically like Elmedi Lights, with the and this is all at the cost, of course, of taking up your shipment queue and only getting them in batches of 3 at a time. The Papal Zouave are right below the Papal Lancers. These are age 4 locked, and yet despite that, unlike the Basiglieri, these guys have such high and powerful stats that they are worth it, and I do think they are one of the best Italian units. You could never really do a fast industrial for the purpose of getting Basiglieri. They're not that good, but you could absolutely do a fast industrial with the purpose of getting Papal Zouave, and that will just work. Papal Zouave are Marines, essentially, except they have range resistance and much higher stats. They have very high siege, very high damage, very high HP, range resistance, and no multipliers against anything. And very few things have multipliers against them. They are just a meat wall, and they do a very, very good job of it. You only get them in batches of 4, but it is well worth it because they are some of the tankiest and most hard-hitting units in the game. Lastly is the Papal Bombard, the replacement for heavy cannons at the factory. Papal Bombards are very solid cannons that have the deflection aura, but the deflection aura only works for other artillery, not units. So whereas other deflections work for all units except artillery, the Papal Bombard will deflect damage done to nearby artillery and absorb some of it itself. What this means is that you will win every single Culverin war, as long as your Culverin is next to a Papal Bombard. But if the enemy just focuses the Papal Bombard, there's not really... then it doesn't really accomplish much. So it's a bit of give and take. You will always win the Culverin War, but as a result, you will always be taking some damage on your Papal Bombard in a Culverin War. As for primary unit compositions, Musketeer Pavasir is a very common one. Musketeer and Papal units is one of my favorites to do. And then Pavasir Pikemen is a pretty solid one for rushes and the like. Italy players will also very frequently throw in Hussar. I don't see many Italy players going all in on Hussar and making them as the primary unit composition, even if they do make pretty big forces of them. And in fact, Musketeer Hussar should probably be here as well. But you should always expect at least a little bit of cavalry, either in the form of some of the powerful cavalry mercenary shipments that they have, or in the form of the Papal Lancer or small Hussar raids from Italy. They will always be a present threat with Italy. Now, things to watch out for when you are fighting against Italy. So you can store resources in the Lombards, and as they work, they generate the other 2 resources at the cost of the resource you've stored in there. Now, you can destroy the Lombards. However, doing so does not decrease the amount of resources that have been stored inside them. It just, the Lombard pool is kind of separate from the Lombard building. However, if you destroy all the Lombards, then you will effectively lock away that pool of resources until they make a new Lombard. So you don't want to destroy a Lombard unless you destroy all the Lombards at once, because otherwise you won't really accomplish anything. Another big thing that you need to watch out for when you're fighting against Italy is to keep track of shipment points. As stated earlier, Italy will, between Papal units and normal shipments, Italy will always be getting shipments. And you need to keep a very, very close eye on where the Italian shipment points are and which ones are destroyed and which ones are not. Locking down shipment points is one of your biggest priorities when fighting Italy. And then just watch for architects. Architects will be trying to sneak around. They make free buildings. I kind of forgot to talk about them in the unique mechanics. Italy can also make architects, which make buildings for free, but extremely slowly. And people will try to put architects, behind your lines or on the outside of the map to make a trade post. And if you suspect, if you're in the enemy's base and you haven't seen an architect in a while, search around and find it, because it's making another town center somewhere, or it's making a trade post on the edge of the map, or even worse, it's making an outpost behind your base and you don't realize it. So that is going to be it. Thank you, gentles and ladymen, for watching this video. Have a great day. This has been a brief civ overview of Italy. Only 2 more civilizations left to complete this series. Have a nice day, and goodbye.